All right, let's kick off another deep dive. Today, we're diving headfirst into the world of Flamengo and their potential transfer target for the 2025 season. You guys sent in a ton of rumors, and we're not just going to read names. We're going to break it all down. Strengths, weaknesses, the whole 9 yards, We're going to figure out what their strategy might be and maybe do a little dreaming along the way, right?
Yeah, what's interesting here? It's the context. We're not just talking about replacing a few players here and there. This is about a new era for Flamengo. New management with big ambitions, saying goodbye to Gabigol. I mean, the guy's a legend. So there's a lot of pressure to bring in some serious talent.
Huge pressure. So for everyone listening, just imagine making those decisions. It's not just names on a piece of paper. These are the players that could completely change Flamengo's future. You know what I mean? Speaking of changing the future, let's talk about the attack. Got to start with the goals, right? That's where the excitement is. Those Roberto Firmino rumors, a potential buyout from Al Ahly, is there anything to that, or is it just wishful thinking?
Firmino's an interesting one, for sure. It's his versatility that makes it so intriguing, Imagine him in Flamengo's system. He could be a classic center forward, obviously, but he'd also drop back, link up the play, almost like a quarterback who can score goals. And you can't just dismiss his experience at Liverpool. He's played at the highest level, and that kind of experience is priceless.
I mean, the guy's a workhorse, right? Yeah. Never stops running. But you also don't bring in a player like Firmino without a plan. What would this say about Flamengo's tactics? Would they build the entire system around him? Or are they looking for more of a utility player, a Swiss Army knife kind of guy?
I think if I were the manager, I'd see him as a cornerstone. Someone to build the whole system around. But you'd need the right pieces around him to make it work. Maybe someone like Arthur Melo from Juventus. He could be that missing link.
Arthur Melo. Now, there's a player who knows the Brazilian style inside and out. But, got asked about the elephant in the room, that injury record of his. Doesn't that worry you just a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something to consider. You can't just ignore it. But he's still young, relatively speaking, and if Flamengo can provide the right support, manage his workload carefully, the upside could be huge. I mean, his vision, his passing range, that's the kind of stuff that unlocks defenses all over Brazil.
All right, so picture this for a second. Firmino up top conducting the orchestra, Arthur feeding him those killer passes, and then who finishes it off? Because those Neymar rumors have been sending the internet into a frenzy.
The Neymar saga. It's really a case of heart versus head. Emotionally, it's irresistible, right? The prodigal son returns, lights up the Americana, the fans would go wild. But practically speaking, it's a tough one. The money, the fact that he just moved to Al Hilal, and those injury concerns, it's more of a fantasy than a realistic option, I'd say.
I think you're right. It's fun to dream, but we got to stay grounded. So if not Neymar, who else? Who's a more realistic target to complete this attacking trio?
There are some interesting options out there. Richarlison from Tottenham, for example. Premier League experience, bags of talent, and I think he's got a point to prove after a difficult season.
Richarlison, now that's a name that gets the blood pumping. The guy's got that fire in his belly, You can't teach that. But would he fit into that Firmino-Arthur dynamic? That's the question.
That's what makes it so interesting. Richarlison's more of a pure goal scorer, loves that directness, the pace. So integrating him would require a bit of a tactical shift, maybe more emphasis on quick transitions, exploiting space behind the defense,
Yeah, so not just plugging him in, but actually adjusting the whole game plan. This is where the manager really earns his paycheck, making those tough choices. But hold on, if we're talking realistic targets, we can't forget about Roger Guedes. He's over in Qatar with Al Ryan right now, but there's been a lot of talk about him coming back to Brazil.
Guedes is a fascinating one. He's got the skills, the creativity, but maybe lacks that killer instinct in front of goal sometimes. But I think he could be a fantastic complement to Firmino and Arthur, creating havoc in the final third with his dribbling and passing.
Okay, now I'm getting excited. You've got different profiles, different strengths. It's like a puzzle. But before we go building this dream team any further, let's hear from you guys listening. Imagine you're the manager, you got the final say. Firmino seems like a solid foundation, but then what? Arthur for the playmaking, Richarlison for that raw firepower, or Guedes to unlock defenses with his creativity. Tough choices. And we haven't even talked about midfielder defense yet.
All right, welcome back to our deep dive into Flamengo's transfer targets for 2025. We've been busy building this amazing attack. But a team needs more than just goals, right?
You got that right. A team needs a solid engine room, the midfield.
Yeah.
And the rumors we've got here, oh boy, are they juicy. We got to talk about Danilo, the veteran from Juventus. What's the thinking behind bringing in a guy like him at this stage?
Well, Danilo's all about leadership, stability. Imagine him slotting into that back line, organizing the defense, guiding the younger players. At 33, he's not coming for the flashy plays. He's coming to be the anchor, the rock that Flamengo can build upon.
I see it. Yeah, he's the wise old head in a young and exciting team. But is that enough, though? Does he bring anything else to the table besides just being a steady presence?
Don't underestimate the value of experience, especially in a league as intense as the Brazilian. But Danilo also brings tactical awareness, positional awareness, a winning mentality from his time at those top European clubs. And those are qualities that can rub off on the entire squad.
So he's not just a mentor, he's a leader by example, setting the standard on and off the pitch. All right, so that shores up the defense. But what about the midfield creativity? We talked about Arthur Melo potentially linking up with Firmino. But are there any other names out there who could provide that spark in midfield?
This is where it gets really interesting. The rumors about Claudinho, the guy playing for Zenit in Russia, those are the ones to keep an eye on. He's young, dynamic, and he's already proven himself in a top European league.
Claudinho? Now, there's a player who could light up the Brazil around. But you said Zenit, right? They're not exactly known for letting their star players go easily.
True, that's a good point. And his price tag would be pretty hefty, for sure. But just imagine the possibilities, everyone listening. Claudinho pulling the strings in midfield, Firmino dropping back to link up the play, and then, boom, Richarlison bursting forward with his pace and power. Now that's exciting football.
Okay, I'm sold. I'm officially on board the Claudinho hype train. But let's be realistic for a second. If the price is too high, there have to be some backup options, right? Who else could fill that creative midfield role?
There's one name that might surprise some people. Rafinha Alcantara from Real Sociedad. He's got the pedigree, the technical skills, and he knows Brazilian football.
Rafinha, oh yeah, I remember him from his Barcelona days. Very talented player. But hasn't he struggled with injuries and consistency over the past few years?
Yeah, that's the gamble. If Flamengo can get him back to his best, he could be an absolute steal. But it's a risk, no doubt about it.
So it's a high-risk, high-reward kind of situation. Arthur brings proven quality, but those injury concerns linger. Claudinho's the young star with a big price tag, and Rafinha's the wild card, the one who could rediscover his magic. Man, these are tough choices, and we haven't even gotten to the wild card signings yet, those what-if players that could be either genius moves or total head-scratchers.
Exactly, because the rumors don't stop there. We've got Luis Suárez, the Uruguayan legend, still banging in the goals at Almeria. And then there's Gabriel Jesus, a name everyone in Brazil knows, currently at Arsenal, but maybe, just maybe, he's longing for a return to his roots.
Suarez and Gabriel Jesus. Wow, now those are names that would send shockwaves through Brazilian football. But let's be honest, they're more fantasy than reality, right?
Realistically, yeah, probably. Suarez is in the twilight of his career. His experience and winning mentality would be huge for any team. But the physical demands of the Brazilian might be a bit too much at this stage. As for Gabriel Jesus, he seems pretty settled at Arsenal, and getting him out of there would cost an absolute fortune.
So yeah, those are probably more for the dream team scenario. But hey, a fan can dream, right? Especially when Flamengo is showing this much ambition in the transfer market.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the big names either. Flamengo is also looking at younger prospects, players who could be the stars of tomorrow.
All right, let's talk about those future stars then. We got to start with Alejandro. He's been making a lot of noise lately, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's definitely one to watch. Quick, agile, good eye for goal. He's got all the tools to succeed at a higher level.
But is he ready for the pressure cooker of Flamengo? That's a big step up.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? But pressure makes diamonds, right? And Flamengo has a great track record of developing young talent.
True. Look at Vinicius Jr. and Lucas Paqueta. They both came through Flamengo's system before becoming stars in Europe. So maybe Alejandro could follow in their footsteps. But he's not the only young attacker on their radar, right? There's David Washington from Santos, two more names with huge potential.
Washington, on the other hand, is more about flair and creativity. He's a bit of a wild card, but with his talent, the sky's the limit.
So we've got the veteran presence, the established stars, the young prospects, the wild card signings. Flamengo's transfer targets are like a mixed bag of chocolates. But as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to ask you guys listening a question. Imagine you're the sporting director at Flamengo. You've got a limited budget. You got to make some tough choices. Do you prioritize experience and leadership? Do you go all in on young talent? Or do you take a gamble on a wild card signing?
It's a fascinating dilemma, and that's what makes the transfer window so captivating. It's all about calculated risks, weighing the pros and cons, and ultimately building a team that can compete at the highest level.
And on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive. We'll take a final look at Flamengo's potential transfer strategy and what it all means for the future of this legendary club. Welcome back to the deep dive, everyone. We've really dug deep into Flamengo's potential transfer targets, haven't we? Analyzed that attack, explored the midfield, and now it's time to bring it all together.
You know, it's amazing to see how all these individual players could fit into the bigger picture. It's like Flamengo isn't just collecting talent. They're building a team with a very specific vision.
Right, exactly. It's more than just transfer gossip. It's like we're getting a peek inside the manager's head, trying to figure out what they're thinking, their strategy. So everyone listening, put your tactical hats on, because we're going to analyze this thing. Given everything we've talked about, what kind of football do you think Flamengo's going for in 2025?
Well, if you look closely, there are some pretty clear patterns emerging. The emphasis on versatility, players who can play multiple positions. That suggests a fluid, adaptable style. Think about it. Firmino dropping deep, Arthur spraying those passes around, Guedes cutting inside, Richarlison making those runs. It's a system that could change and adapt depending on who they're playing.
Yeah, I'm picturing it now, and it's pretty exciting. It's not just about individual brilliance. It's about orchestrated chaos, keeping the other team guessing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where the manager's role becomes so crucial. Talent alone doesn't win championships.
Absolutely. It's about integrating those personalities, finding the right balance between experience and that youthful energy. That's the real challenge. It's like conducting an orchestra. Each player's a different instrument contributing to the symphony.
And like any good orchestra, you need that conductor who knows exactly when to let the violins soar and when to bring in the percussion for that dramatic effect.
Speaking of dramatic, we've talked a lot about new signings, but there's another side to this, right? Departures. Gabigol leaving creates a huge hole, obviously. But are there any other players you think Flamengo might be looking to move on from?
Yeah, it's hard to say for sure. This is where we get into the realm of speculation.
Yeah.
But there are a few names that come to mind. Maybe players who don't quite fit the new system, or players whose roles might change because of these new signings. It wouldn't be surprising to see some squad rotations, some tough decisions being made to create space for this new generation coming in. Yeah, it's like the circle of life in football, isn't it? New players arrive, others say goodbye, and the pursuit of that winning formula continues. But before we get too lost in hypotheticals, let's bring it back to you guys listening. Imagine you're sitting in that manager's office, looking at this list of potential targets. What's your priority? A proven winner like Firmino, a young star like Claudinho, or maybe you're feeling a little risky and you go for that wild card, someone like Suárez. Because that's what makes football so great, right? The possibilities, the what-ifs, the dreams of building a team that can achieve anything.
Absolutely, and that's why this deep dive has been so fun. It's not just about breaking down the players, it's about exploring those potential stories, the stories that could unfold on the pitch if these transfers actually happen.
Perfectly said. So to all the Flamengo fans out there, stay tuned. The next few months are going to be a roller coaster ride. And who knows, maybe some of these dreams will actually come true.
Well, one thing's for sure, Flamengo's aiming high, and that's always a good thing for the fans.
Couldn't agree more. A huge thank you to everyone for joining us on this deep dive into the heart of Flamengo's transfer plans. We hope you enjoyed this glimpse into the future of this iconic club. Until next time, keep that passion for the beautiful game alive.